That wasn't an intention to process. I was assigned that table. So I was invited to share with you how Starr King School for the Ministry shaped my ministry and shaped me. And after I said yes and began reflecting on that, I realized it was a lot like asking somebody with a happy childhood to explain how the childhood had shaped you as an adult. In 6 minutes, by the way. 6 to 7 minutes. So what I decided I needed to focus on was the fact, although it's a large and kind of complicated fact, that what Starr King did for me was to help me hear, honor, and follow my call to ministry, which did not look like I understood calls to ministry should look. I didn't have any idea what a call to ministry should look like. I entered Starr King when I was 27 years old, in 1983. I entered Starr King explicitly and rather fiercely declaring that not only was I not a Unitarian Universalist, but I had absolutely no intention of ever being a minister.
It's true.
I passed my 30th anniversary of ordination this April. And as Rosemary said, I served 25 years in parish ministry. So something happened between the time I entered Starr King and the time that I left Starr King that obviously drastically shaped the rest of my life. So I want to tell you the singular event that most shaped me, which in fact didn't happen at Starr King, but I believe happened because of Starr King. As that 27-year-old entering, fiercely holding institutional religion at bay, I was there to explore my spiritual life. I was a radical activist. I was desperately hungry for something that would feed my spirit. I had been shaped and formed by Catholicism, which by then I was very clear I had left, but I did not know what I should next enter. So I was at Starr King to explore that question. And toward the end of my first year there, I was far more confused than I had been when I entered. And I asked Till Evans for some time. I didn't know Till very well. I'd never had her for a class. But there was something about Till's presence, as all of you who knew her could attest, that drew me to her and made it clear to me that she was the resonant listener that I needed for that moment. So my angsty self poured out for about 10 minutes in her office, and then she raised her hand and she said, "I'd like you to do something for me. I'd like you to close your eyes and sit quietly with me and just breathe for 5 minutes. Let's just breathe together." So we did that. And then into that much deeper silence, Till said, "Now, without any self-censoring, please tell me, what do you want to do?" And I heard myself say, "I want to go live and work in Nicaragua against the war." And she smiled and said, "Well then." Now, I dropped out of Starr King, and I moved to Nicaragua with Witness for Peace, where I lived and worked in the war zones of that desperate and beautiful country, and then came back, and it was Starr King that helped me make sense of what I had experienced there, and of the fact that for the first time in my life, I had found a space in which my commitment to radical political interventions and resistance met my spiritual hunger in the context of this spiritually grounded organization, Witness for Peace. So Starr King made sense of that for me. Here's what I mean about the call piece. Some of you may have experienced, as I did in my early years of ministry, quite to me surprisingly, colleagues that I encountered from Harvard or from Meadville who, in discovering I had gone to Starr King, would say something gently teasing, like, "Oh, they give you credit even for basket weaving there, don't they?" To which I usually responded rather defensively. I never saw basket weaving per se on the curricular list. However, what was true is that Starr King had figured out that there were a huge range of educational events that could happen in our lives, that in fact more than counted toward ministry. They were definitive of ministry. And it was that attitude at Starr King that helped me understand that I was, in fact, called to ministry. But my call has always been a moment-to-moment or a day-to-day call. I have never, ever perceived the long, straight highway before me with the call shouting down from the end of it, "This way, this way." It's been much more like a secretive little whisper around the very next near bend saying, "Probably this way. Let's give it a shot." And so I tell you that in all honesty, during my 30 years of being an ordained minister, when I have received the question, "How did you decide to be a minister?" I said, and still say, "I'm still deciding." Thanks to Starr King.